Hello and welcome to a first reading of a fanfiction. Yay. This is Bumbleby Shorts number 1 by KyleWagner. Probably one of my favorite writers on this. And yeah. Two little stories that I made that weren't long enough to be standalone, so I put them in a collection. The stories' titles are Priorities and 2015. And if this doesn't take long enough, we will do Bumbleby Shorts number 2 as well, just because, there is a second one. But I assume these chapters are going to be quite long. 2015. Okay, why is this one first? Whatever. Ooh, Yang, look at this. RWBY squealed, shoving her skull in Yang's face, disrupting her concentration on the newspaper in front of her. Yep. What is it? Pokemon Go? What in the world is that? Yang questioned, pushing the scroll just far enough back so that it was legible. It's a new Pokemon game made by Nintendo that puts Pokemon in real life. RWBY cheered before letting out a drawn out gasp. Maybe Deoxys is on the moon. Maybe what now? Yang asked, turning to Blake for clarification. Faunus was waist deeper in her story of tapping furiously at her keyboard. Deoxys, the DNA Pokemon. Number 386, one of the rarest legendary Pokemon in the game franchise, and coveted due to the fact that it can be manipulated for certain stat boosts, Blake said, not looking up from her laptop. She took a sip of her coffee, ears flicking slightly at the newcomer coming through the door behind her. Hey, Weiss, glad you can make it. Did you hear about? RWBY started before realizing that she was talking to Weiss's back. Yes, Pokemon Go. You only texted me 25 times about it, Weiss said, casually turning to order a coffee for her and RWBY, making sure to add 5 sugar packets into it before returning to the group. Blake, I swear, you're pretty much a walking Wikipedia at this point. Yang said, leaning back in her chair. This is an internet cafe, Yang. I just switched tabs and Googled it. Blake said, rolling her eyes. Her eyes never wavered from her screen, and it was obvious on her face that she was on a creative streak. So, Weiss, how's the prom organizing going? RWBY said, suddenly hoping to break what might soon be tension in the chat. I heard that you're going for a more fancy schmancy kind of dance. Yes, I'm planning on making this the fanciest and most fun prom that Beacon's ever seen, Weiss boasted. If there's anything that Weiss prided herself in, it was her style and fashion sense. Son often called her the fashion police. The four sat in silence for a good 5 minutes or so, everyone indulging in their respective drinks of choice. The only sounds that could be heard were Blake's tapping and the whirring of machines in the kitchen. So, Blake, what's your story about? RWBY asked her. 2 souls, each fighting over control of her body. Jesus. Way to use more joke and way to use more lines from RWBY. Jeez. Stop stealing lines. Come on. Blake answered, finally resting her fingers. She shut her laptop and put it off to the side. That's cool. How far along are you? RWBY asked. Everyone's eyes flickered to see Blake's face turn to one of complete uncertainty and fear. I'm only a few pages in. It doesn't seem to be progressing very well. It seems like the most difficult story that I've written. Blake answered, sliding her laptop back onto her lap. I was mainly just writing on my blog, trying to avoid the fact that I'm out of ideas for the story. Oh yeah, that reminds me. Congrats on getting 500 followers on your blog. I saw it last night, Yang said, giving Blake an air high five as neither of them were inclined enough to. Anyways, I think I'm gonna go catch a movie, Yang said, standing up to throw away her coffee cup. She took a few steps towards the door, then turned back. The situation was as it was before she got up. RWBY spouting gibberish at Weiss about Pokemon Go, Weiss wearing an obvious expression that pleaded for help, and Blake tapping away at her keyboard. Yang frowned a bit, then walked back towards the group. Aren't you going to come with me? pressing a hand on Blake's shoulder, causing the faunus' ears to flick towards her. Me? Blake asked, blushing at both the sudden invitation and the googly eyes she was getting from Ruby. Of course, I'd be lost without my blogger, you know, Yang said, pulling Blake from her seat, grinning at the blush on the faunus' face. Oh, sure, I'd love to, Blake replied, quickly turning away to hide her blushing face. She regained her calm as she packed up her laptop and took a deep breath. What movie did you have in mind? I don't know. Let's pick when we get there, Yang announced. Jeez. Marching out of the cafe with Blake in tow. I was thinking some sort of romantic action movie. As the door closed behind Blake, Ruby immediately switched topics. Her facade dropped, and both her and Weiss both looked unpleasantly anxious. Yang had been saying these things recently, and it's obvious that Blake felt every word in her heart. Neither of them were sure if Yang had meant them, but they were bent on getting Yang and Blake together. Okay, Weiss, what do we do now? Yang pretty much just claimed Blake, but it sounded like a joke. Ruby murmured, worried about Blake's mental state if this kept up. I'm not sure if Blake can keep up with these constant jokes from Yang. It doesn't seem like Yang notices her feelings, Weiss worried, sipping her coffee carefully, as it was still hot. The two chatted for a while before they decided to split off and head home. Well, both of them came up with many ideas. Neither of them could agree on a single one that would work. Either the plan was seriously cheesy or was too difficult to put together. 4 hours later, Ruby was laying on the couch in the apartment that she owned with Yang, watching old Japanese cartoons on the flat-screen TV they bought. As of then, Ultraman was on, a show that featured a team of scientists fighting off their enemies with something called a beta capsule, which let one of them transform into a giant robot-like monster for a couple minutes. The door slammed open, and Ruby fell off the couch in fright. Yang, what in the world happened to you? Ruby yelled, seeing her clothes loose on her body, her hair unkempt. Best makeout session ever, Yang said before strolling into the bathroom. All Ruby could do was stare in shock and the sound of from the shower head replaced the quiet atmosphere in the apartment. Well, I guess that solves that, Ruby muttered before turning back to the TV. Weiss could wait to hear the news until later. Alright, that was certainly a good one. Priorities. An explosion could be heard throughout the battlefield, as a pillar of fire that seemed to stretch the heavens suddenly appeared. At the base was Yang Zhilong, and she was not happy. Nothing had made her this angry before, and people on both sides of the battle stopped fighting, turning in fright to see Yang's normally lavender eyes shift to a deep crimson red. Drop her, she said as the two words echoed throughout the battlefield. Whispers escaped the lips of a few White Fang soldiers, and the ones fighting Ruby immediately backed away before turning to see where the malice was directed. I said drop her, Yang repeated, cocking back Emberselica to reload the chambers, as a few of the less intelligent White Fang members charged forwards to keep Yang at bay. With her anger reaching new heights, she grabbed the nearest White Fang soldier and tossed him in the air as if it were made of paper. Hey, batter, batter, Yang yelled before punching the man straight through the few soldiers charging at her, taking off ears and arms as the man flew. Then a gunshot rang from the man's gun, catching Yang in the leg. The battle erupted once again, a pillar of fire still at the center. As Ruby and Weiss pushed the White Fang soldiers back off Yang, feeling a bit remorse for them, Yang was plowing through White Fang soldiers to the opposite end of the battlefield, where Adam stood clutching the shirt of a bloody Blake. Adam dropped the Faunus girl, then turned to face the nuclear fireball that was being thrust at him. I said, drop her! Yang yelled, throwing back her arm to prepare punches. Adam ready. Blush. Blush was a weapon that became stronger by feeding off of people's auras, and Yang was roaring, making his weapon stronger than ever. Wait, what? Okay, whatever. Adam deftly dodged Yang's first punch, only to be scraped, charged with Blush, catching Yang in the arm. The battle seemed to go on for ages, with both Yang and Blush only getting stronger and stronger. Yang's attacks became stronger and more unpredictable as Adam kept slicing with Blush, painting a picture of blood on Yang's limbs. It was at that moment that a loud crack was heard throughout the battlefield. For a second time, everyone stopped fighting. Ruby, who was dispatching of the last of the reinforcements, turned in fright to see the result. Weiss, however, was still struggling with a few soldiers. Red shards flew through the air as the now broken Blush quickly became only a handle. I give up. Adam said, dropping the hilt and backing away slowly. Not so fast, you bastard. You're going to pay for what you did to Blake, Yang roared, charging forward, cocking back the strongest punch ever to be recorded in the history of Vale. Baseball players around the world would have been put to shame at the distance Yang got from her swing, as a gentle splash could be heard in the distance. Who wants some? Yang shouted, causing the remaining white fanged soldiers to scatter. One white fanged soldier was frozen in fear and put his hands up instinctively. Hey, buddy, you might want to run, Ruby said, patting the man on the back. He nodded before running, turning, and sprinting away. The now quiet plaza was only held the four girls now, as the pillar of fire fell, returning to where it had originated. Blake, you're going to be fine. I'm getting you to a hospital now, Yang said, picking up the funness, whose breathing was now shallow. Blake was barely conscious and showed a gentle smile before laying her head on Yang's arm, drifting off to sleep. That night, Miss Xiaolong, that was most impressive, I do say so myself, Professor Ozpin said, leaning forwards in his chair. We've never seen anyone with an aura or semblance quite that powerful before. Well, here I am. Yeah, we're far from her usual self. Well, I'm sure that after a day like that, all you want is some rest, so I'll fulfill your wish. I'm still expecting a full report tomorrow, Osmond said, pushing it back his chair. The chair so you could stand, and Yang, try not to have Beacon pay expenses for a fountain that was broken in half by a flying faunus next time. Yang said nothing as Osmond left. She just followed him into the dorm area, where he stopped and let Yang into the dorm. As nobody to let her in otherwise. Yang silently climbed into her bed and would lay awake for the entire night to come. The next morning, Blake was well enough to sit up and talk, though nowhere near able to walk again. Adam had nearly killed her, so it would be a few weeks before she was fully recovered. As Yang walked in the recovery room, she was greeted with warm smiles by everyone. Yang, what was that? Ruby asked, obviously referring to the giant pillar of fire she had created. I've never seen you get angry about anything other than your hair. Well, I guess there's some things in life I love more than my hair, Yang said, rubbing the top of Blake's head softly as she slept. I'd say so. And that was, in fact, Bumbleby Short number 1. So it has been a long enough time where I would say that we don't actually need to go on to the second one, and we can save the second one for later. So yeah, that is it for Bumbleby Shorts number 1 by KyleWagner. Because I haven't read it yet, so this will be pretty interesting.